So you are welcome. This is a better experience. You're welcome. My healthy food place. So what actually happened yesterday? Let me start by sharing it because we learn from every experience. I've had to repeat this life. It's a repeat of the yesterday life because of network, poor audio, and direct. Everything was almost wrong with it because of the back camera. And what made it happen? Yesterday, I had to look at, these are my screen guards. I had to change my screen guard bought a new screen guard, and on putting that screen guard on the phone, the front camera became almost blank. I did all the updates, phone updates, changes, set everything. It wasn't possible. But just towards the close of the day, at night, I was so troubled about it. The Spirit of God, I believe, ministered to me to take off that new screen guard. I just want to show us briefly before we move. And so immediately I removed it. My screen was back. My front camera was back. In case some of you, there's fake of everything. So back quickly to the subject on the table. That's by the way. And I'm grateful to God that it's a better output. It has a better output after all the, updates, phone updates, everything was done to make it better, but yet until that was taken out. And so the subject we are talking about is how it happened. That was the topic yesterday, but I decided to change it today. How to reverse blood sugar. How these two foods that I want to share with us reversed the blood sugar. And the person in question, as I was telling us, is actually my own spouse. Now, the live of yesterday, the one that is being repeated, those of you who have listened to it, you know it is not possible to get 100% repeat of it because of the problem of when you are going to repeating something, you may not be able to say everything, but the idea behind the life is actually to let us know that what we are talking is true. You can drop your comment. Yesterday it wasn't possible to do all of these things because of the back camera. Was just because I'm someone that once I decide to do something, I don't like to take no for an answer. I don't want to say obstacle or whatever. That was why I was bent almost and I did it. And so if you have any comment, or maybe you have watched that particular one, because it had a few views, but I didn't mind to take it, to private it so that I can make something better, something you can interact, something you can see me, I can see you. And so the subject was how the blood sugar rose. Those of you who watched it, you can now also quickly drop your comment if you have any regarding that particular live on that. There was already a comment, but it was a very positive one. Someone commented that it's a good teaching. So it's important I repeat it. The blood sugar actually rose to 158. And while we were busy putting eyes on blood sugar, it was actually the while we were busy suspecting the blood pressure, blood sugar seemed to be the one causing the problem. And what was exactly the problem? The problem actually was dizziness. 65 years old man. my own very spouse. So he actually came back with complaints of serious dizziness. And when I say dizziness, serious dizziness. And so the first advice I suggested was to stop all the carbohydrates. And I'm going to also emphasize on that today. That when any disease knocks on the door, the best advice I give to people, and I give myself also, is to stop the carbohydrates. That was my suggestion. Without any confirmation whether it was a blood sugar, whether it was a blood pressure, but the first advice was stop the carbs. Let's stop the carbs first, because carbohydrates, they're always the problem. Or our body usually find it difficult to handle diseases when carbohydrates are also in the house. And so the suspect was actually the blood pressure. So, but nevertheless, and why was blood pressure suspected? Because of the history. Now, if most people of that age, maybe you're 50 or 60 or 65, you may have a medical history of what you had experienced before. History of, whether it could be blood sugar, it could be ulcer, it could be anything. And so because of the history of blood pressure, we're like thinking it is the blood pressure again. But like I also said yesterday, it's always good to have a kind of, open mind, and don't just suspect only one disease. The vitals, as they often call it in the medical environment, you need to check all those vitals. Not only the blood pressure, the blood sugar also needs to be checked. So I thought that it was necessary to check the blood pressure, blood sugar as well. So we actually went into action, stopping the carbohydrates immediately. I mean, putting most of the carbs on hold for that very day, at least between the night and the morning. But there is also something I need to say here about habits. We are all in it together. There is no disease that flew from the air. What we call disease, most of the things we call disease, we brought them in through what we eat. And then a good number of us do not take heed. A good number of us do not take heed until there is a threat to our life. And I think this also was part of the issue in this case. And as a matter of fact, we're all caught up in it. So when you have someone telling you, don't eat this, don't eat, don't smoke, don't do that, a lot of people don't take it seriously. They tend to relax and go ahead with their lifestyles until they are told that their liver is almost damaged, or that they have few days or few weeks to live as a result of that. Nobody wants to die. It doesn't matter how hard things may be. We all want to remain here as long as possible. And so the point was that there was this consistent, yes, Rebel guy, thank you, you're welcome. There was this consistent consumption of the cassava product mixed with some other grains. But I know that cassava product, when taken consistently, certain foods like that will start building up insulin resistance. And it is not proper for you to say that you don't have this disease, and then you, after 60, you live your life anyhow, and you just eat carbohydrates anyhow you like. So in this particular case, that food was the main cause, because I like to point hands on that cause. So that food was the main cause, but I wasn't actually taking it. I do take it occasionally, but you can't force an adult to have what you are having. As an adult, you can take whatever you like. So nobody will force you, say, don't, you must take this, you must take that. And that is exactly the point I'm trying to make. That a good number of us, until something threatens our life, we don't tend to listen to any advice. We keep on doing what we're doing. We keep on enjoying what we're enjoying. So, by the way, that was my thought, that I may have triggered that insulin resistance and to the point of serious dizziness. And so the next morning, I said, okay, let us look at the blood sugar first. So I'm going to show us, this is the AcuCheck machine used. So this was what was used. Okay, you're back again. Don't know, maybe it's network. And so this was actually what was used. I already showed us to check it in the morning. And guess what? 158. Those of you who are familiar with the reading of the blood sugar and the blood pressure, you know what that means. For a fasting blood sugar, is quite high. The normal range is usually 110, between 110, sometimes 100, sometimes 90, like I normally have most of these days, maybe 96, 95, 85, 110, 115 is still okay. But when it gets to 150, 140, 130, 158, that is fasting. Then it's something that calls for concern. And so that was it. And guess what? It became necessary also to check on the blood pressure, because these are the two key vitals that we must suspect or must check anytime we have serious symptoms like that. We must check these two to be sure that they are, because they are the ones that usually trigger things like complications. And so on checking it, it was also quite high for a fasting test, result test in the morning, 159, I think. 159. That's high. Somebody who is not on medication, blood pressure medication. I know it in the past, it had risen up to 196 in the morning like that. Some people don't get up to 160 before they suffer a stroke. Some people don't get up to 165. So you don't have to wait for it to get to that point before you start to do something. It's always good to have your eyes on these two vitals. And so it was something very, very worrisome, because you now have to deal with two of them. We now have to deal with the two. And some of you are also in that particular situation, managing both the blood sugar and the blood pressure. Because most of the things that trigger these things, a good number of them are the same thing. It's habits, lifestyle, food choices. And so, what was the remedy? Now, the remedy actually is, or rather was, 3 guava leaves. 3 guava leaves. And why was it raw guava leaves? Look at tender guava leaves. Wash in running water. Wash in running water. And took it raw. Yes, took it raw. Now, why was that necessary? Let me explain that. Now, if you go through the channel, my channel, you will notice that I had made previous videos on the importance of using raw foods to manage ailments such as blood sugar, increase the blood sugar, or similar things like that. I had also made videos trying to, explain why we need raw foods to manage or reverse certain diseases at a certain point, because our body tends to understand raw foods better. Our body tends to use them faster too. So it tends to absorb them, but that is exactly what I'm saying. So better than when it is cooked. So because when these foods are cooked, the requirement to get them absorbed increases. So it doesn't just get absorbed easily. The body will have to produce some digestive enzymes, a lot of other things, than when it is taken raw. And so that was actually the result. We are also aware that when you boil the guava leaf, it helps to lower blood sugar. That one, we know it already. When you boil your guava leaves and use it as tea, it works perfectly too. It helping you to lower blood sugar and several other things. But when the blood sugar is as high as this, and the blood pressure is also very high, it's okay. There's no need boiling it this time around, because we need something very speedy. We need a more speedy result. That was why it was used, actually. It was actually used. And then after washing and chewing it, I think we're okay with this. 3 tender guava leaves, fresh. After washing it, chewing it, then this is the seed I already showed us. I'm going to be counting it here for you to look at it. I already posted a clearer image of it on the community post. You can also look at it there again if you haven't. And so this is tamarind seed, roasted, dry roasted like this, fried, just to make it more dried and crispy. It's very hard to chew, but I tell you the truth, I have personally used it several times to help aid my digestion. And whatever is aiding the digestion is also helping you in your blood sugar, lowering blood sugar effort. And so I said, okay, you need to chew this one also. A good number of us normally neglect tiny seeds like this. And it was actually neglected initially because I could sense it. And so when you see tiny seeds, there are a lot of other tiny seeds that we are looking down on. But let me use this opportunity also to emphasize or suggest to us that you should stop ignoring or neglecting seeds that are small. Or maybe you want to take it and you felt because it's small, let me take a larger quantity. Stop it. They are more dense, they are usually more powerful than the so-called big seeds. Examples of seeds like that, like moringa seeds. There are a lot of other seeds. Moringa seeds, cumin seeds, fennel seeds, fenugreek seeds. We have seeds of papaya. So many other seeds. But we tend to, look down on them because they are small. And this one is one of such seeds. It may not be so popular with people, but I tell you, it's a very powerful seed. I already shared something about it in the group, in the community group. So it was also chewed. Then in addition to that, he went for a walk. Just a walk. Remember that when you are trying to manage blood sugar, you don't have to sit down on one spot and be testing out all the remedies. Exercising is part of the remedy. Going for a walk in the morning, both for blood pressure and for blood sugar, is part of the remedy. Not too strenuous, moderate exercising in the morning helps you to lower the sugar, to burn out the existing sugar, and even to help to control the blood pressure. That was also done. But this was also not with the exception of water therapy. Water therapy was there. It's always there. Starting the morning with lots of water. That is what we teach, is what we believe, and that is what all my subscribers, my followers, I expect you to be doing every morning. Start your morning with water therapy, lots of clean water, because it does a lot. In addition to other things, it helps also to lower your blood sugar, your blood pressure. Because if the blood is too concentrated, if you are hydrated, it is also difficult to be able to bring down the blood sugar and the blood pressure, because nothing can take the place of water in the body. Our body is made up of lots of water, the constituents of our body. They rely on water more than any other thing on a daily basis. And so starting our morning with water therapy, that one, we cannot overemphasize it. There are videos already on it, and I've also gone live on it to explain what water therapy is. When should we take it? For how long will we take it? What quantity should we be talking about? All these questions which may arise regarding the water therapy is already answered in the videos. I've gone live 1 or 2 times on it because of the importance. But you can also go to the channel and watch those videos if you want to know more, because that's not the subject for today. But it is being mentioned because it was actually the first therapy in the morning. So we cannot undermine or underestimate its own effect in helping to give result. And so if you are managing your blood sugar or your blood pressure, don't forget the place of water therapy. Lots of water in the morning, depending on your weight. And so you can also add some lemon juice occasionally to help. And so we did that. And after all these were happened between 8:30, 9 o'clock and 12 noon. And this blood sugar was lowered, surprisingly, within 3 hours, within a space of about 3 hours or thereabout, because everything happened before breakfast. And because I said earlier that don't eat if you find out that your blood sugar is very high in the morning. Work to bring it down. And that was exactly what we tried to do. Work to bring down the blood sugar when it's high. Work to bring down the blood pressure when it's high. Whether it's through if you are relying on medication, do that. If you are relying on natural foods or using food as your medicine, do that. Whichever one you are using that is working for you, just ensure that you bring it down before you eat, because as soon as you eat, it's going to rise again. It doesn't matter what you eat. But as long as you bring in anything with calorie, it's going to make it to rise again. And so after taking the guava leaf and chewing 3 of this, one by one, it's hard to chew, but by the time you keep chewing it like a candy, it's going to break, and then chew with the seeds, everything. And again, what I noticed about most seeds like this, like flax seeds, they are very, very powerful. One of the things they do is also helping to tackle cholesterol. Apart from sugar and the rest of it, they do a lot of other things that may also be aiding or sponsoring the problem. And so this one was actually taken. So after a few hours, just before the breakfast, okay, we said let's check it again and see what it's looking like. Honestly, surprisingly to me, I found out that the blood sugar had even risen, come down to 108. I was amazed because I was actually not expecting it as low as I was thinking something to the neighborhood of 130 something from 158. That would have been encouraging enough. But surprisingly, with these two foods, only these two foods, and water therapy in the morning, and exercise, I mean, walks, just a few kilometers walk around, call it exercising anyway, it was able to come down 108. And the blood pressure also came down to about 130 something, around 135 or thereabout, which is quite surprising to me. A lot of people are also wondering, some people are still also doubting that some of these things are not effective. That is also one of the reasons why it became necessary to share it. It's an experience that we need to also, tap into. If you have been trying a lot of remedies, maybe most of the remedies are cooked. There are something that have been cooked, prepared, boiled, like a few other concoctions, and then you take it. And then there's another aspect of this experience that I need to share with us, and that is even the very interesting part of it. And the very interesting part of it was that this same blood sugar and blood pressure that had been, successfully reversed with these two foods. On the second day, soursop leaves was boiled with hibiscus flower tea. We know the soursop leaves is known to lower blood pressure, and we have successfully used it in the past. The same thing with the hibiscus flower tea, which we call zobo, is also great when it comes to blood sugar management and blood pressure. Then we also know the effect of the the guava leaf. But surprisingly, he boiled these leaves together and took them in the morning of the other day. Honestly, I got to know of this, and we decided curiously to go check the vitals as the previous day, with the hope that everything will have crashed. My dear, this is even the most, I don't know whether to call it worrisome or the real story of this whole thing. I began to wonder, and there is a message, something I want to also advise or suggest to those of us listening to me. When these same vitals were checked, shockingly, honestly, the things were up, particularly the blood pressure. So what actually went wrong? What happened? If you have an idea, you can drop it as a comment. But I want to also advise or suggest something. You see, all these herbs, they have varieties. They have different varieties, species, So we don't know. Only when the research is done, there are various of them in the same family. And usually they don't deliver the same result. So it is important to also focus on a particular food most times to be sure the result you are getting. Because a lot of people like to mix herbs together. A lot of people like to combine a lot of herbs. They don't even bother to know their names or what they are doing. Some even go to, uneducated women or sellers to tell them to mix things for them, and they just drink it. My dear, if you are in that habit, you need to stop it. It's always better to know the particular one that gives you result. This is not to say that combining herbs together is bad. No. Sometimes the synergy of combining two herbs, you can't underrate it, because I have been a partaker of it. I have had occasions to boil lemongrass with hibiscus tea and some few leaves of guava leaf, and it was great. Feeling under the weather and just need a little boost, constipation and all those things. It was very, very perfect combination. But when you combine and you don't get result, you need to find out which one didn't give result, or whether one of them had lowered the strength of the other one because of the combination, or by way of combining it. Maybe they don't go, because some foods are better combined. Some they like to operate without combination. There are best herbs that you can combine together. Not just, some people are so fond of it. They like just combine anything. They don't even care what it's doing. Just combine everything, give them, and they start to drink it. We need to be very careful when it comes to things like this, because even with the curiosity to go at this result, with the hope that everything will have been resolved with the synergy or the combination of these known herbs. Which herbs? Hibiscus flower tea, soursop leaves, and then the guava leaves. It was expected that everything will have crashed. The guava leaves will have done the justice. The other one will crash the blood pressure, and then with the presence of the zobo, everything will have just been very, very low. But that wasn't the experience. The experience was far from our expectation. And that is why it actually, lowered that faith in these combos too, that don't just combine things and you won't know which one is working for you. Find out. I always like to use herbs singly, and then very rarely I combine them. And when combining, I start by combining 2, and then sometimes 3, but hardly more than 3. I don't do that. Maybe we may safely say that herbalist does that. But we are not herbalists. And I'm not a herbalist. Okay, some people may say because you talk about herbs. But those who are doing that, yes, we can safely say they are herbalists. And so, what are we saying? There are lessons to be learned from all of these things. The result was gotten that first day. But it's not only the guava leaves that you need and that seed. You need also dietary changes. You don't have to just rely on herbs, 1 or 2 herbs. You need to also work on the diet. Include diet. Some of you may be wondering what was in the diet. If you want to know that, you can drop your comment. Then we'll also talk about that on another day. I will organize another live for us to come and talk about the content of the foods that was given, because it will take a much extra time to do that today, because the essence of this is to share this very, very experience. It was quite, exciting to me. It was amazing, because honestly, I expected a positive result by doing that, but it was far more than what we got. So it became necessary to share the experience, because a lot of people today are still worried that their blood sugar is not responding. At times I hear people with blood sugar as high as 200 and as high as 250 and the rest. What exactly is causing it? A good number of you have not even identified the cause of it. But from the beginning of this video, I told us what caused this one. You can go back and listen to it again. I started by telling us what caused it. So many of you are not worried or desirous of knowing what is causing the insulin resistance so that you can stop it. A good number of you are more interested in getting the medications, getting the remedies. But while taking the remedies, they are still feeding the disease. Feeding the disease by consuming the same food, the very food that created that problem. That is exactly the point. And so if you are experiencing something like that, whether it's blood sugar, first most important step to take is to find out what food choices you are making, to find out what lifestyles, what habits that that opened the door for that blood pressure or for that is very important. Because in this particular case, we quickly identified the cause of the problem and we stopped it. If we didn't stop that feeding it with, if we didn't stop the cause of the problem of the blood sugar, it will not respond. It will have continued to increase and increase until complications show up and it becomes a real hospital issue or hospitalization affair. And so that is one of the lessons to learn in this very experience. Identify the cause of the problem, which was done. And as soon as we identified it, we took it out. I took that food out immediately. And immediately it was taken out, positive results began to show up. And of course, the dizziness, which was the main symptom, you know what dizziness is. Various things can cause it. Was not expected to stop that very first day. But gradually, it began to slow down, which was what was expected. And as I speak, it has totally disappeared. Before today, it has totally disappeared. And this is something that a good number of people will be running for medications. Not to say that medications are bad, not at all. But if you do not identify the cause of the problem, medications may not do much. And sometimes medications may work for a season, and as you continue to bring in the foods that created the problem, that is why some people come and say that their meds are no longer working. Why? Because they are still feeding the problem, they are still feeding the disease. So you need to take this as an assignment to go identify the cause of that high blood sugar. Go identify the cause of that high blood pressure. Go and identify it, please. Because when you identify it, it will not take you much effort to stop the blood sugar from rising. It won't take you much effort to stop also the blood pressure, because these two, I believe, may have even been sponsored by that singular food in the diet. And once that food was taken out, like I often tell us, our body can heal itself. Yes, it doesn't matter. Take this as an assignment to find out how you are feeding that disease. Take that food out. Start starving that disease. And it is a matter of time. even without much medications and all the stuff we're running around for. It will just reverse. It's going to reverse. That's one thing I can tell you for free. It's going to stop. The body will just gradually regain its balance and you get going. So that is about the how it happened, how the two foods reversed it. And that is not to say that there are no other foods or herbs. That is not to say that this is there are several other foods that reverses blood sugar, but you need to also understand a lot of things. I've heard people say you take this particular food or not or whatever, and so thing will disappear in 7 days. I don't believe that. That could just be a marketing strategy to sell a product or to sell something.